It is said that on mortal Earth, though time is static, hours lived do vary in length depending upon activity. A joyous activity such as the ritual of tea making, a walk in an indoor greenhouse, or beating your siblings at a murder mystery simulation board game like Clue may make the hours go faster. And activities necessary but less enjoyed, such as visiting the Department of Motor Vehicles, waiting back on results from an STI screening, or waking up to your neighbor mowing their lawn on a Sunday, may make time slow to a marching crawl. Sundays, of course, are notoriously and temporally strange. Mortals are very good at giving time descriptors, in which time gains feet. They are also quite adept at gendering time. Father Time, for instance, is in league with Mother Nature, and Mother Nature is a callback to the Greek goddess Persephone and her daughter Demeter. And Father Time himself in historical documentation cartoon filmographics often has a Poseidon-like feel and malevolence to his nature. Malevolence, of course, is a familiar thing for mortals. Not only do the first letters match using the M sound, but malevolence and its counterpoint, benevolence, are often omnipresent in a mortal's life. And of course, in the kitchen of Surf City Donuts, both emotions are on display at any given time. Neither Mace nor Ben has seen Edgar in now approaching 4 days. Not that he's disappeared, no, more to the fact that he has ceased working at the donut shop altogether and has been combing every inch of Surf City for Sheriff Omer. Mace has seen him more at home when he comes home exhausted and collapses on the couch for a short hour or two rest from his hauntings. And the former boxer wakes up more frantic and disoriented than before. Mace has made him little boots of food to eat, sometimes oatmeal or cheese sticks, and always very hot coffee. Only occasionally has Edgar spilled it on himself. Ben has been less kind. In an uncharitable way, Ben, who now has a black eye and a slightly crooked nose, has snapped. The tower of boxes stacked with deliveries to go out seems to weigh him down, and his very soul. I don't care if his best buddy is missing. He needs to come to work. You can't even drive stick. We have to make a living, unless you're going to hitchhike your way out of town again. Ben gestures to the door as if to invite Mace to abandon him as well. Mace focuses on the scrape that is scarring on Ben's cheek before replying, thinking carefully about their duties and capabilities and the things Mace knows that Ben could likely not handle, such as this moment. You don't know anything about our brother, Mace settles on tentatively. If you did, you wouldn't be so angry about him taking time off of work for actual important things. This place wasn't his dream. Oh, don't give me that. I know it wasn't his dream. It wasn't mine either, but this is the way the world works. You think I like this? You think Surf City is a great place with a sheriff missing? And when did they become best friends, anyways? I don't think I've ever seen them in the same room. Yeah, well, I never saw you and Truist in the same room either, Mace replies with a shrug. Well, that's not fair. You left and you threw him away. You know how hurts that is being left. You did okay for yourself. I mean, how long have I been back and you were still seeing him? Long enough that he smelled like you. Lucky me, my big brother and my ex. Starting the wedding march. Some people like stability. They don't need to go out finding themselves, Mace. You're lucky. You take it for granted, but you're lucky. At least you get to leave. Mace just stares at Ben, who moves over to the dough and without thinking plunges his hand into the slowly rotating hook, scooping out an entire portion and just barely keeping his wrist from being caught. He takes the dough to a white tray and begins the process of cutting out donuts for baking. Why don't you just deliver them? Why don't you? You can walk them. You're so proud of exploring, why don't you? Ben snaps. Maybe I will, just to get out of here. Better for everyone, Ben says, and the words explode out of him, not like a tire hissing to its last bit of air, but like a rattlesnake the moment before it strikes. Listeners, there are things on Earth called seasonal allergies. They can cause your charge to become irritable. Symptoms of allergies include sneezing, red eyes, visits to doctors, little white pills with enchanted names like Claritin D on them. They occur in many ages, but mostly those teen age and above. The skin of your charge may become sensitive or blotchy. They may not be welcoming or show hospitality. If your charge normally irons their clothing and yet they greet you in little more than a robe, it is likely seasonal allergies. Or at least you should hope for this tangible outcome. How can you, as a charge guide, help with seasonal allergies? Well, first, you must learn about the season and embrace what it means. Spring is seen as a time of rebirth, lots of signifying pastel colors in usual and unusual places, a fetish for eggs and flowers and familial connection. The summer is hot, rolling hot. This is the time of year for escape. Many charges, and even in some rare cases, trouble, looks to escape, to the edges of the world, to the fringes, to the mist and the coolness which even now is evaporating before their eyes. What they do not yet realize is how little escape there is left from the things which they have pursued themselves, that their better angels, so to speak, did not create. But that is summer. Ice cream and popsicles are quite popular. The autumn experience is a push and a pull. It is cool outside, but within there is a thirst for warmth, for mellow, for hearty. Turnips, pumpkins, caramel apples, gingerbread. It is a color profile of green and orange and red and sometimes purple. It is a bridge, knowing that the shadow of winter approaches. Fall is full of merriment and idealism. Autumn is also known as fall. Your charge will embrace some seasons and some allergies over one another, but how you react will set the tone for future interactions with your charge. Your level of sympathy may influence how they listen to you as their charge guide. Winter is a season I have not spoken about, but there are allergies associated. They are different, based more on weather patterns than on earthbound flora or fauna. It is the bitter cold or a strange wetness. Noses glow red depending upon how the nose is evacuated. Your charge may crave humor surrounding a benevolent mythological advertising character called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Do not dissuade this, but also do not break the mythology open. Winter humor and joy is often based on plateaued assumptions of the suspension of disbelief. And some charges, like Martha Margrave, like the cold, prefer it even. Her house, unlike her office, is set to a near bitter 63 degrees American Fahrenheit. The heat from her office is greater, but only because she does not control that particular thermostat. When cold, Martha Margrave's self-sufficiency soul desire kicks in. She has a large blue enamel pot in which she makes hearty soups and stews and eats small portions at a time. These stews are consistently filled with appropriate levels of vitamins, minerals, and stock proteins available at any supermarket, and they last her for 2 weeks in one stretch. She may eat them over rice or dip slices of white bread into the soupy broth remnants. One day, though, the temperature in her home dips even further cold. It is a Sunday, this day, and the house has been quiet the whole day, which is her joy and desire. There is a strike from her massive grandfather clock, and then a bitter cold She steals her breath. Across town, at the same moment, alone in the kitchen, as was his wish, Ben feels a strike from the heavy cast iron pan against the side of his neck. It does not snap his neck, but it does break the chain of his necklace. The chain leaves an imprint of red in his neck, like a welt or a particularly bad hickey. The necklace, the chain, the family heirloom slide away from Ben's body, and there is a shattering sound of glass as Ben falls to the ground and the heavy pan cracks the heirloom of butterfly spawn into pieces. And Ben does not move. In Martha's home library, a genealogy book slides out of its well-dusted and maintained shelf. It lands on the floor and flips open to the page about the Black family. Wind swipes through the room, the pages fluttering, but Martha is too stunned at the hovering figure to hear the noise she would have otherwise been attuned to. Later, she'll reshelve the book absent-mindedly, still haunted by the happenings. Martha? The voice questions, the sounds reverberating around the bare walls as if an echo piercing into Martha's skull. Martha? I'm cold. Why am I cold, Martha? Mary, Martha says, breathing out. You who hold Martha's charge folder can feel her heart rate as it quickens, feel her soul as it drops. Mary stands there the same as the day she died, the same young child but with blue lips and stringy wet hair, in her nightgown. Why am I cold, Martha? She asks again, politely. Her arms float as if she swims. She looks around the room, detached from the present. All around her arms, the air shimmers as if she's liquefying the world. The gray light bursts from her body when Martha does not respond, as though she exudes a winter sun. There is no real power in it. The house does not shook or reverberate in any way, but there is a portrait window left, a shade blocking natural light. It is a portrait of an unmoving young Mary Margrave. Trouble would like to say a word about winter. Winter is good. It is a time to remain indoors. It is a time to revisit stories from your youth, cautionary tales. It is a time of judgment, of giving, of receiving. It is a time where the cold is embraced, for warmth is coming. Think not of the drudgery of finding warmth. Do not dwell on the chill of the body, of how ligaments pop deep within you, releasing pressure. Do not think of that which causes you to shiver indoors. Do not think about blankets wrapped around you so tightly that you are immobile. Do not think of friends who are trapped by snow and ice, unable to come to you or you to them in merriment or aid. Winter, it's gray and it's good. Julie begins to notice things about the flyers around town from the mysterious mayoral candidate. Not just that they dissolve, which was quirky and strange enough, but something that the town seems to have grown accustomed to. And though she's bothered that not enough residue was left behind that she can probably try a spell, she notices they seem to live on some sort of strange horizon line until you are about 2 or 3 steps away. They're also tilted, just slightly, just a few degrees, just enough that they are never straight in any way. The ones that remain until last often have a shingle-like quality to them. They seem to flap and twist on a non-existent breeze, as though the candidate is a bird, building a home, building a nest. They do not mess with her memory, thankfully, though, so Julie writes down as many locations as she can for the flyers around town, making notes, scribbling, power walking, grimacing as she writes, knowing she can't catch them all but trying, knowing that she does not know what she does not know, and what she cannot see. And she cannot see that these flyers are a summoning ritual. And if you are above the earth from the highest point in the sky before reaching space, it is a pattern that is both a diamond and a circle. It is a mighty ancient rune, but it is inverted. A sign pointing, seemingly, to the swamplands of Surf City, to where Varric, naked, is covered with moss and waits melt before the ichor-filled water of the swamp, unblinking, unsleeping, the only sustenance being what the moss drops upon his head and which runs into his open mouth. He is waiting. Rage also seems to be waiting, and it is enough that Rage has ceased screaming at the exact moment when Julie begins the ritual to try to find some information about these flyers and the person behind them. She lights 5 candles at different points in her living room, and then she is startled by the silence, too startled to speak. She turns, and Rage, who has been there for so long now she can barely remember before, is gone from her line of sight, and there is a silence there. There is a vacuum of words, and it causes her to shiver. She is experienced enough to do a ritual by rote now, which she attempts. It is a ritual of illumination, and in this case, illumination not just of a light, but of information. But all the spell illuminates is a shadow on the wall, 1 and then 2 and then 4 and then 8 or 9 or 12. A crowd of people in her living room, but only their shadows. It is the crowd that stopped her in the alleyway from going after the vamp in the pub. And she is pulled into a shadowy corner of the room, into a shadow, and her world goes dark. Where has Julie been taken? What will happen when the candle extinguishes in Julie's apartment with no one there? What will happen to the donuts in the oven if Ben remains unconscious? And what could happen to Mace if one of those deliveries is for Louis Swan? Find out those answers and more on the mysterious season finale of Surf City Donuts. Coming soon, listeners. Surf City is an audio work of John McDonald and John McDonald Productions. It is meant for entertainment purposes only and is not meant to advise anyone on lifestyle, health, or spiritual philosophical issues if there are any time. All opinions expressed are held by the characters and in some cases the creator of Surf City and Surf City Donuts, John McDonald.